from New Jersey for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you. Thank you to the witnesses for appearing here today. I appreciate you sharing your stories, and I'm sorry for your immeasurable grief. And the folks on this committee look forward to working together in a way where we can solve some of the challenges that are facing our country. But since this is an impeachment hearing, I will direct my questions to Professor Pearlstein. As the professor has observed, there are provisions of the Constitution that are murky and subject to debate, and provisions that are clear. Article 2, Section 4 is clear. Treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors are the only constitutionally permissible grounds for impeachment. My Republican colleagues have not come close to making a constitutionally sound case for impeachment against Secretary Mayorkas. They have incorrectly argued that the Secretary's designations of certain groups as eligible for parole constitutes, quote, mass parole, and is inconsistent with law. Each case is considered on a discretionary case-by-case basis, which is a requirement in the Immigration and Nationality Act. It is worth noting that parole authority has been used by every administration since President Eisenhower, who paroled 30,000 Hungarian nationals fleeing communism. Professor Pearlstein, does the Secretary's exercise of well-established parole authority constitute treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors?
I don't believe it does, no.
Thank you. My Republican colleagues have also argued that Secretary Mayorkas is violating the law by releasing migrants awaiting adjudication of their asylum claims. That claim is not true, and that practice is not new. In fact, DHS released hundreds of thousands of individuals at the U.S.-Mexico border under President Trump. Professor Pearlstein, does detaining migrants in a manner consistent with the law and the resources provided by this Congress constitute treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors?
No, it doesn't.
Finally, my Republican colleagues have also incorrectly criticized the Secretary's guidelines for the enforcement of civil immigration law, which prioritize enforcement actions based on national security, public safety, and border security. But as Justice Kavanaugh observed in United States v. Texas, Article 2 of the Constitution confers upon the executive branch the, quote, authority to decide how to prioritize and how aggressively to pursue legal actions against defendants who violate the law, and that principle extends to the immigration context. Professor Pearlstein, does exercising well-established authority to prioritize immigration enforcement actions constitute treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors?
No, sir.
Thank you. This committee has engaged in months of so-called investigations into the administration's border security policies. Despite all of the time and resources committee Republicans have invested, they still cannot make a case for impeaching the secretary that meets constitutional muster. Instead of wasting more time on a baseless impeachment, we should get back to the work of passing bills that will actually help solve problems. But Republicans don't seem interested in that. They made their immigration proposal, H.R. 2, as cruel and unworkable as possible, rejecting every amendment Democrats on this committee offered in good faith, amendments some Republicans agreed would improve the bill. Everyone on this committee wants to fight the scourge of fentanyl in this country. That's why, during our markup of H.R. 2, I offered an amendment to authorize the Biden administration's Operation Blue Lotus, an aggressive strategy for fighting drug trafficking with a proven record of stopping fentanyl from being smuggled into the country. But every one of my Republican colleagues voted against it. Why? Because while they talk the talk, they refuse to walk the walk. H.R. 2, you talk about it in every response. What's your alternative to H.R. 2? Why does it have to be H.R. 2 or nothing? If you're serious about figuring out the border, work with us. Let's come up with another solution. But you go back to H.R. 2 every time you're challenged about the substance of what we're doing here while you are in the majority on the border. Come up with a second proposal or a third proposal that can pass this House, be signed into law, and we can get to work. You sit on H.R. 2. You point to H.R. 2 and say, that's the work we've done. Meanwhile, you bring these witnesses here to talk about the tragedies they've experienced, but what are we doing now? What's your proposal now besides H.R. 2? There's nothing. There's nothing. This is about scoring political points. You want to make this administration look weak on the border? When are we going to put our country above party again? I believe in you guys. I believe you want to do that. Let's do it. But talking about H.R. 2 as a solution is a farce. And one day I do hope that we can work together on these issues. I would love to do that because the work of this country is critical and we need to get to it. With that, I yield back.